Okay, so welcome to the Deep Dive. And today we're going to talk about something a little bit different and something I think everyone's going to find pretty interesting.
Absolutely.
It's AI and cybersecurity.
Yeah.
And to be honest, it's a topic that always kind of felt a little sci-fi to me.
Yeah, it does have that kind of futuristic feel to it, doesn't it?
It does, right? But the thing is, it's not sci-fi anymore, is it?
Oh, definitely not. It's very much a reality.
Yeah.
And it's something that everyone really needs to be aware of.
I mean, when I think about AI, I think about self-driving cars or, robots writing poetry, but this is something totally different.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's not just about, robots taking over the world or anything like that. It's really about how this technology is changing everything. And I think cybersecurity is maybe one of the areas where it's having the biggest impact.
Yeah, for sure. So before we really dive into it, right? Yeah. Can you maybe just give us a super quick overview, what exactly are we talking about when we say AI and cybersecurity?
Sure. So essentially, it's all about how artificial intelligence is being used both by the good guys and the bad guys when it comes to cybersecurity. It's kind of like a digital arms race.
Oh, wow. That's a great way to put it. I mean, I always kind of knew that AI, was playing a role in cybersecurity, but I never really thought about it like that.
Yeah. And the thing is, it's not just about, who has the more powerful AI or anything like that.
Right.
It's really about how AI is changing the landscape.
Yeah.
The tactics that are being used, the threats that we're facing. It's all evolving incredibly quickly.
So let's break this down a little bit, right? So you said AI is being used by both the good guys and the bad guys when it comes to cybersecurity.
Exactly.
So let's start with the defenders, The good guys,
yeah.
How are they using AI to protect us from all the bad stuff out there?
So on the defense side, AI is really like this incredibly powerful tool that can help us protect our systems and our data.
Okay.
One way it's being used is for threat detection. So imagine AI as this super vigilant security guard, right?
Oh, I like that, yeah.
That's constantly patrolling your digital world and looking for anything suspicious.
Okay.
So, AI-powered tools can use something called machine learning.
Machine learning.
To analyze huge amounts of data.
Yeah.
And look for patterns that might indicate a threat. So, they can spot unusual network traffic or suspicious login attempts, or even predict potential threats before they happen.
So it's constantly learning, right? Learning from all this data and then figuring out what's normal and what's not.
Exactly. It's like giving the computer this ability to learn from experience.
Right.
Rather than just, programming it with a set of rules.
Okay.
So it can adapt and evolve as the threats change too, which is really important because, as you know, the cyber threat landscape is constantly evolving.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, so it sounds like, AI is pretty much a game changer when it comes to defense, right? It can do things that humans just simply can't do.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, it can analyze massive amounts of data in real time. It can spot patterns that humans might miss, and it can do all of this, 24/7 without getting tired or making mistakes.
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty impressive, right? Having this sort of AI guardian watching over your digital world. But
yeah.
Okay, so that's the defense side. What about the bad guys? The attackers, how are they using AI to do their bad stuff?
Unfortunately, the attackers are also using AI to their advantage. They're always looking for ways to exploit new technologies.
Yeah.
And AI is no exception, so they're using it to create more sophisticated attacks. Attacks that are harder to detect and harder to defend against.
Can you give me an example? What kind of attacks are we talking about here?
Sure. So one example that's really been making headlines lately is something called the Deepfake CEO scam.
Deepfake CEO scam.
Yeah, it sounds crazy, but it's actually happening.
So what is a deepfake?
So deepfakes are basically these incredibly realistic videos or audio recordings that are created using AI.
Oh, wow. I've heard about those, where they can make it look like someone is saying or doing something that they never actually did.
Exactly. And the technology has gotten so good that it's really hard to tell the difference between a deepfake and a real video or audio recording.
That's scary.
It is. And so in this deepfake CEO scam, what the attackers do is they use AI to create a deepfake audio of a company CEO.
Okay.
And then they call an employee, someone in the finance department or something like that.
Yeah.
And they pretend to be the CEO and they tell the employee to authorize a large financial transaction.
Oh my gosh. So they're basically using AI to impersonate someone and trick people into giving them money.
That's exactly right. And because the deepfake audio is so realistic, the employee often has no idea that they're being scammed.
That is so creepy. And like, what can you even do about that?
It's a tough one for sure, but there are things that companies can do to protect themselves.
Yeah.
Like, training their employees to be aware of these types of scams and having procedures in place to verify any unusual requests for financial transactions.
Right. Okay. So that's one example of how AI is being used by the attackers. Is there anything else that we should be worried about?
Oh, yeah, there's definitely more. So another big concern is AI-powered phishing.
AI-powered phishing. Okay, so like phishing emails, but like on steroids or something?
Yeah, something like that. So you know how regular phishing emails are often pretty easy to spot, right?
Yeah, I mean, you're usually full of typos and grammatical errors, and they just kind of look sketchy.
Exactly. But AI-powered phishing emails are different.
Different how?
They're much more sophisticated. They can be incredibly personalized and relevant to you.
Okay.
And they can even adapt in real time to your responses.
Oh, wow. So it's like talking to a real person almost.
Yeah, it's getting pretty close to that. And so these AI-generated phishing emails are really hard to detect, and they can be very effective at tricking people into clicking on malicious links or giving up their personal information.
Wow. Okay, so it sounds like, the attackers are definitely keeping up with the defenders when it comes to AI, right? Like they're using this technology to make their attacks more sophisticated and more effective.
Oh, absolutely. It's a constant cat and mouse game.
Yeah.
As soon as the defenders come up with a new way to use AI to protect us, the attackers are already figuring out how to use it to their advantage.
So it's like a never-ending battle.
It really is.
Okay, so this is all pretty intense stuff, right? Like it sounds like AI is having a huge impact on the world of cybersecurity, and it's not all good news, unfortunately.
Yeah, there are definitely some real concerns there.
But we also talked about how AI is being used by the defenders, to protect us from these threats.
Yeah.
So can we maybe dive a little deeper into that? Like, what are some of the specific ways that AI is being used to, fight back against these AI-powered attacks?
Sure. So, we talked about threat detection earlier, right?
Yeah.
That's definitely one of the key areas where AI is making a huge difference. So, AI-powered security systems can analyze massive amounts of data from all sorts of sources like, network traffic logs, system events, user behavior.
Yeah.
And they can use this data to identify patterns that indicate an attack.
So it's kind of like AI is learning what normal behavior looks like and then flagging anything that deviates from that pattern.
Exactly. And because AI can process so much data so quickly, it can detect threats much faster than humans can.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense because like a human, looking at all that data would just be overwhelming.
Exactly. It would take forever and they'd probably miss a lot of stuff.
Right.
But AI can do it, in an instant.
Okay, so AI is helping us to detect threats faster and more accurately, but what else can it do on the defense side?
Well, another important area is incident response.
Incident response.
So what happens when an attack does get through.
Yeah, right? Like what?
Well, traditionally, incident response has been a very manual process. You have a team of security analysts who have to investigate the attack, figure out what happened, and then take steps to contain the damage and recover.
Yeah, that sounds like it could take a long time.
It can. And in the meantime, the attackers might be, stealing data or causing other havoc.
Right.
But with AI-powered incident response systems, a lot of that manual work can be automated.
Oh, wow.
So, the AI can analyze the attack, determine the root cause, and then automatically take steps to contain it and remediate the issue.
So it's kind of like having this AI, SWAT team that comes in and cleans up the mess after an attack.
Yeah, exactly. And it can do it much faster and more efficiently than humans can, which is really important because, time is of the essence when it comes to incident response.
Absolutely. Okay, so we've got AI detecting threats and responding to incidents.
Yeah.
But is there anything else that it can do to help us stay safe?
Sure. So another area where AI is being used is in the development of smarter firewalls.
Smarter firewalls. Okay, so like, what makes a firewall smart?
So traditional firewalls, they work by blocking traffic based on a set of predefined roles.
Right.
But smart firewalls use AI and machine learning to analyze incoming traffic in real time.
Okay.
And make more intelligent decisions about what to allow and what to block.
So it's like they can learn and adapt to new threats as they emerge.
Exactly. And they can also identify and block traffic that might not be malicious, but is still suspicious or unwanted.
Oh, that's interesting. So it's not just about blocking the bad stuff. It's also about, filtering out the noise and making sure that only legitimate traffic gets through.
That's right. And this can really help to improve security and performance.
Okay, so AI is helping us on multiple fronts, right? Like it's detecting threats, responding to incidents, filtering traffic. This is all pretty impressive stuff, but also sounds incredibly complex, like something that's only accessible to, big companies and governments and, tech experts.
Well, I understand why you might think that, but the good news is that AI-powered security solutions are becoming more and more accessible to everyone.
Really? Even like everyday people like me?
Oh, absolutely. There are a lot of consumer-grade security products out there now that use AI to provide enhanced protection.
Oh, that's good to know. So it's not just, something that's out of reach for the average person.
Not at all. And in fact, I think it's really important for everyone to start thinking about how they can use AI to improve their own personal cybersecurity.
Okay, so given all of this, right, like all the threats and all the defenses, what can we, like everyday people, do to protect ourselves from these AI-driven attacks?
Well, that's a great question. And, the good news is that there are a lot of simple things that you can do to improve your security.
Okay, good.
And you don't need to be a tech expert to do them.
Perfect.
So first of all, one of the most important things is to enable multi-factor authentication on all of your important accounts.
Multi-factor authentication. Now, that's something I've heard about.
Yeah.
But can you maybe just remind me, like, what exactly is that and why is it so important?
Sure. So multi-factor authentication, it's basically an extra layer of security that requires you to confirm your identity using 2 or more different methods.
Okay.
So for example, it might require you to enter a code that's sent to your phone in addition to your password.
Right. I've seen that before.
Yeah, so even if someone steals your password, they can't get into your account without also having access to your phone or whatever other method you're using for the second factor.
Right, so it's like a double lock on your account, basically.
Exactly, and it makes it much harder for attackers to compromise your accounts.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So multi-factor authentication is definitely something that everyone should be using.
Oh, absolutely. It's one of the most effective things you can do to improve your security.
Okay, good to know. What else can we do?
Another important tip is to stay informed about the latest cyber threats. There are a lot of great resources out there that can help you keep up with the latest trends and vulnerabilities.
Like what kind of resources?
Well, there are organizations like the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, or CISA.
CISA?
Yeah, they provide a lot of valuable information and updates on current threats.
Okay.
And there are also a lot of, security blogs and websites that can keep you in the loop.
Right. So it's important to kind of stay up to date on what the bad guys are up to.
Exactly, because the more you know about the threats, the better equipped you'll be to defend against them.
Makes sense. Okay, so stay informed. What else?
And of course, you always want to be incredibly cautious with suspicious emails and messages.
Right, so don't click on any links or open any attachments from unknown senders.
Exactly, and even if an email appears to come from someone you still want to be careful if it seems off or unusual.
Like if your bank is suddenly asking for your password or something.
Exactly. Don't be afraid to double check with the sender or just delete the email altogether if you're not sure.
Okay, so be suspicious, be cautious, don't click on anything that looks weird.
That's right.
Okay. Good advice. Any other tips?
One more really important one. Always keep your software updated.
Oh yeah, those update reminders.
I know they can be annoying, but those updates often include security patches that fix known vulnerabilities.
Right, so don't ignore them.
Exactly. The attackers are always looking for ways to exploit those vulnerabilities.
Right.
So the sooner you patch them, the better.
Okay, so stay updated. And, I guess that goes for everything, right? Like your operating system, your apps, your browser, everything.
Exactly. Keep everything up to date and you'll be much safer.
Okay, well, this has been a really interesting deep dive. I have to say, I've learned a lot about how AI is being used in cybersecurity, and I'm definitely feeling a little bit more informed and a little bit more empowered to protect myself from these threats.
Well, that's great to hear. And the key takeaway here is that AI is a powerful tool that can be used for both good and bad.
Right, like a double-edged sword.
Exactly. And it's important to stay informed and be aware of the risks, but it's also important to remember that we have the power to protect ourselves.
Right, and to use AI to our advantage.
Absolutely. So, keep learning, keep adapting, and stay safe out there.
Great advice. Okay, so before we wrap up, is there maybe one final thought that you want to leave our listeners with, something to kind of ponder, as they go about their digital lives?
Well, we've talked a lot about the technical aspects of AI and cybersecurity.
Yeah.
But I think it's also important to consider the ethical implications of this technology.
Ethical implications?
Yeah, as AI becomes increasingly powerful, we need to think about how we can ensure that it's used responsibly and ethically in the realm of cybersecurity.
That's a good point. I mean, it's something that we haven't really touched on, but it's definitely something to think about.
It is. We need to make sure that AI is used to protect people, not to harm them.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, that's a great point to end on. I think, food for thought for all of us. So thanks so much for joining us today on the Deep Dive and for sharing your expertise on this fascinating and slightly terrifying topic.
You're very welcome. It was my pleasure.
And thanks to all of you for listening. We'll see you next time on the Deep Dive.